Hi everybody, this is Josh with Josh Wright Piano TV. Today the episode is based on counting. I cannot stress enough how much counting out loud helps students, including myself. When I'm learning a really hard piece, I always count out loud in order to get the rhythm. If it's basically sight readable, counting out loud isn't quite as necessary, but it still is helpful. I remember a great humbling lesson that I learned from a student of Leon Fleischer. She told me, Leon Fleischer asked if I had counted a passage, and I told him, no, I haven't. And he said, well, why is it that I still feel the need to count out loud? Here we have one of the greatest musical minds in history still feeling the need to count out loud to help him really get that foundation of rhythm. Now, I don't think he needs it per se. Maybe that's blasphemy or something to say that he actually needs it, but in his own words, I believe he said something of that sort. So I'm here to stress the importance of counting. I teach several students from all ages. My youngest students are about 8 or 9 years old, and then I teach people all the way up into their 70s and 80s. And I am continuously amazed that counting reinforces solid rhythm. It gives students confidence to know that they're doing the correct rhythm, and it also establishes good performance habits. If any of you have ever played Clair de Lune, which is a very, very popular classical piece, you'll know that the counting is so critical in order to get those rhythms right. Even if you fake it, you kind of just go off of the recording, it's never quite solid and it can feel a little unnerving. So I'm here today to demonstrate how I go about counting. Now, I'm going to present some really basic note values, just in case those of you who are new to the piano don't know these. So let's start with basic note values and how much they get, and then we'll go on to harder concepts, and I'm just going to demonstrate with some Mozart sonatas right here. We'll just open to a random page. I haven't planned anything out, and I'll just show you if this was it, because most of these would be new pieces for me. I haven't played tons of Mozart sonatas, how I would go about doing that. So let's take a look. Okay, I have adjusted this camera as best as I can, so I'm going to write a little bit larger than usual because I want everybody to be able to see this and to be able to comprehend these concepts. First of all, let's go over basic note values, okay? So here, let's just first of all go over time signatures. So if you have 4/4 time, this top number means how many counts are in the measure, or how many beats. So we find 4 beats right there. And then the bottom number implies what kind of note gets 1 beat. So if you have a 4 on the bottom, think of what 1/4 of a dollar is. That's a quarter. Okay, so basically a quarter note would get 1 beat there, and we'd have 4 quarter notes per measure. Okay, now, that doesn't mean that you're actually going to have 4 actual quarter notes in the measure. You could have half notes, 1 whole note, you could have several 16th notes. I'm going to go over all those note values. Before I do, I want to introduce a couple other time signatures to each of you. 3/2 time, sometimes you see, or 2/2 time. Okay, that's an interesting one. Basically, we have 3 beats per measure, and a half note gets 1 beat. Okay, so that can be a little more complicated. I usually, this is kind of bad of me, but I like to kind of convert that into a 4 just for counting's sake, because sometimes counting those really short values, if you're in 3/2 time, can be a big pain. So if you're having trouble with this, convert it to 3/4, or even just to 6/4. If you convert it to 3/4, you're going to have to divide the measure in half and then start back over. Let's go over one more. 6/8 is also a common one. Sometimes you'll see 3/8, sometimes you'll see 12/8, and you'll see all sorts of crazy stuff in modern music. But these are some of your basic ones, like the 4 on the bottom, the 2 on the bottom, and the 8 on the bottom. Basically what this would mean is we have 6 beats per measure, and an 8th note gets 1 beat. Okay, so let's go over quickly and go over what all these notes look like. This is a whole note, and it just looks like a hole in the ground. So that's why I like to think of it as a whole note. That gets 4 counts, and hopefully you can read my handwriting. It's a little sloppy, but that's what a whole note looks like. This is a half note right here, okay? I know this is some basic material for most of you, so you can fast forward if you're bored. And that equals 2 counts. This is a quarter note. Oh, before I do that, sometimes you'll see a dotted half note. And I'm not going to write these out anymore. You can just jot these down as I go if you need. A dot adds half the value of the note. So we saw that a half note gets 2. What's half of 2? Well, we'd go 2 plus half of the value of 2 is 1. So that equals 3 counts. Okay? A quarter note is just a black filled in dot. That gets 1 count. Okay? A dotted quarter note, if you think about it, is 1 plus a half. So that would get 1.5. Okay? And then I'm not going to do any more dotted ones yet, but this would be an eighth note. That gets half the value. This is a 16th note. Each time you add a little flag, one of those little flag things on, it divides it in half. So that's a fourth. I'm going to come over here. A 32nd note, so 3 little flags, is an eighth of a beat. And then a 64th note is a 16th of a beat. Okay, so basically how many of these would we have for 1 quarter note? We would have 16 64th notes for a quarter note, or 8 32nds, or 4 16th notes, or 2 half notes, or 1 whole note, or 1 quarter note for the beat, okay? So now that we've done that, let's go on and let's explore how to count. A lot of people just count 1, 2, 3, 4 if they see this 4, 4 time up here. I'm here to tell you that there's an easier way. First of all, we're going to stick with basic rhythm to start with. Okay, so this equals 1 beat. Okay, we're going to pretend that this is a pi right here. Okay, this is 1 beat. A pi can be divided in several different ways. The most basic way is in half. Okay, so 1 and. Basically, if you see eighth notes in your piece, those little things, or they can be divided up into individual eighth notes like this. Usually they're barred like that, 1 bar or 1 flag. 1 and, okay, is how I'd count. 1 and, 2 and, 3 and, 4 and. If you see any 16th notes in the piece, like that, or groups of 4, usually is what you see them in, like that. I like to divide it again. 1, E, and some people do 1 and some people do 1 T tati or something like that with these other syllables. I just learned 1 E and when I was young, so that's what we'll stick with here. Okay. Sometimes you will see triplets. So you'll see, if you see eighth note triplets, basically a triplet is squeezing 3 notes in to where 2 usually belong. So this would be divided into 1 and it would be divided in 3. Okay, now this is a super fast intro. Let's just go over a couple hard note values and how to count them. Okay, so I'm just going to scoot this page up a little bit. If you see a dotted eighth note right there, first of all, I would say, okay, I'm going to be using 16th notes, because whenever I divide eighth notes, we get 16th notes up here. Okay, so that would get a half a beat plus a fourth. So in other words, that's 3/4 of a beat. I don't want you to think that way, because that can get really complicated mathematically, and as a musician, I'm not very good at math. So I just like to think, okay, half of the pi is what this gets, because it's half of a beat. So this is going to get 1 E. And then what does that dot add right there? Well, it would add half of the pi. So this gets 1 E and. Or if it comes after a 16th note, so if you see this rhythm right here, like a 16th and then an 8th and then a 16th, you go 1 and then E and 1 E and okay? Or if you see a 16th note and then, I'm just going to divide these so we don't get them confused. Oh, what am I doing here? If you see something like this, so a 16th note followed by that, this would be 1 E and okay? This is a basic lesson. I don't want to go too much further with this, just because those of you who already know this stuff are getting probably very bored, and then this stuff will teach you how to do this. Let's open to a random passage, okay? So, all right, I just literally we can open to a different one if you'd like. Just something that I've never really studied before, and let's get something with some tough stuff. Okay, I'm gonna zoom in here. Okay, here we go. This is a tough little measure. First of all, I always like to flip to the first part. Oh, I've actually played this one. Okay, that's all right, because this is interesting. This is in 6/8 time. Okay, I remember this piece was a real bear to count. Okay, so it's good for anybody to observe here. This can be daunting. Look right there. We have a dotted eighth note, two 32nd notes, four 32nd notes, 16th, eighth. Most of my students panic when they see that. Okay, no need to panic. In life, sometimes it's easier to start with the easiest stuff. Rather than doing the hardest task first, don't figure out those 32nd notes yet. Let's just start with easy stuff. We're in 6/8 time. Okay, I'm just going to write that so everybody can remember it. We're in 6/8 time right here. So we have 6 counts, and we have an eighth note getting one beat. So these are eighth notes here in the left hand, and that little guy right there is an eighth rest. Okay, I won't go over all the rests here. Actually, you know what, I'm going to. All right, everybody ready? This is a quarter rest. It's like that little weird looking guy. That equals a quarter note. If you see a little bar on top of the line, that kind of looks like a hat. Hat, half note. This little guy right here kind of looks like a hole in the ground. That's for a whole note. This is great for teaching kids. And this one, once you get past those ones, they get really easy. If you see one little flag with a line, that's equal to an eighth note. And if you see two little flags, that's a 16th note, and so on. Okay, so basically that's an eighth note right here. Okay, I'm gonna go through and I'm just gonna write in my basic counts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, now, this can now be a little hard because you say, well, how far do I really want to divide it? Well, I would probably divide it down to the level of the 32nd note. Okay, now I just got done telling you guys that for 16th notes, you count one ianda over here, okay? Now, I'm throwing you into the ringer here. For this, if the eighth note, in that example, the quarter note got one beat. If the eighth note gets one beat, you're going to divide it differently. Okay, so let's go through and figure this out. Okay, so this is going to get 1 and 2 because it's a full beat. It's an eighth note because we're in 6/8 time, and then that dot adds half. So that's 1 and 2, and then and would be for the 16th note value. How many 32nd notes do you get per 16th note? Well, you get 2, okay? So this would be and. So you would just write in 1 and 2, and then that guy right there gets and. Okay, that note right there. All right, next, I'm going to divide this. I'm gonna write this a little neater. 3 is gonna come right underneath that guy right there, the D, okay? And then and will come on that one. Okay, now remember that we're in 6/8 time, so this can be a little daunting. 4 and let's see. Okay, this is embarrassing. Okay, we're gonna go on to the easier stuff. 5 and then 6 and then and here. Okay, so this has to get 4 and that's correct. 4 and 5. Okay, this guy right here is and 5, in other words, and then this comes in on the and. See how I panicked a little? I said, oh no, I'm teaching this video. How am I gonna do this? All right, yeah, I just go back to basic principles. This gets a full beat, and 5 is a full beat, or 5 and would be a full beat, but it happens that comes on and, okay? That is how I would do that. And then if you would like, you can go in and put 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and to divide it down even more. So let me go ahead and play this little passage really slowly. We're in A major here. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and, okay, and then I'll put dynamics in. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and, okay, so there that is. There's that. Okay, let's do a piece that's in 4/4 time that I don't know, so you guys know I'm not cheating. All right. I've heard that before, and I've taught it once. So let's just go to one of these measures, to these ones, okay? We're going to do these two because we see eighth notes there, eighth note triplets, and then just basic eighths, okay? Again, this can look a little daunting, and ignore the trills when you're first starting to count, okay? Don't get caught up in those yet. All right, so 1, let's just write in the big beats. We have 4 big beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then 1, okay, and I know I have 4 big beats. 2, 3, 4, okay? Now let's divide them at the eighth note. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and it's really easy to follow that left hand, and you notice this right hand, these 16th notes just come with the left hand. Okay, now it's up to you if you want to subdivide to the 16th note level. I'm going to do it just to show you guys. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and when your score is kind of small like this, or your handwriting's a little big, you have to write real small. Now when we get to these triplets, how did we do this? Let's look over at our sheet. Okay, we have 1 and is how you count the triplets, okay? So we're gonna go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, okay? So basically, let's be counting our big beats first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then right hand, now this is gonna be hard because the camera's in the way. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Sorry, this camera. 1 and 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1. All right, I know this video has been quite long. Some of you may have just kind of scanned through it. I just want to stress the importance of counting out loud, how much it really does help. If any of you have questions or would like to audition for private online lessons, please email me. My email account is josh@joshwrightpiano.com, and I'd be happy to help you out. Thanks for joining me today.